The morning my boss fired me, I knew something was wrong before he even spoke. The second I walked into his office, I smelled my wife's perfume, lavender, and something warm underneath it. I knew that scent better than my own. I had been buying that perfume for Rebecca for 6 years. For a moment I just stood there. Then I noticed the folder on his desk. My name was printed on the tab. My stomach tightened. Kevin Calloway sat behind his desk, looking calm and professional. But there was something else in his eyes. Something that almost looked like satisfaction. "Derek," he said. "Have a seat." I sat down slowly. For 9 years, I had worked at Calloway Capital Group. 9 years. I was always the first person in the office and usually the last to leave. I missed birthdays. I missed vacations. I worked weekends. I helped build that company. I helped build Kevin's reputation. And now he was staring at me from across his desk. "We're restructuring the investment division," he said. My heart sank. "Your position is being eliminated." He pushed the folder toward me. Inside was a termination letter, an NDA, and a severance offer. 3 months of salary. That was it. 3 months for 9 years of loyalty. I looked at him. "Effective when?" I asked. "Today." Today. Just like that. Everything was over. My eyes drifted to his silver cufflinks. I froze. I knew those cufflinks. Rebecca had picked them out last Christmas. I remembered standing beside her while she wrapped them. Then I smelled the perfume again. Lavender. My wife's perfume. The room suddenly felt smaller. Much smaller. But I didn't say anything. I simply nodded. "Okay." I signed the papers. Closed the folder. Stood up. Then I walked out without another word. 9 years. Gone in 10 minutes. Outside the building, cold wind hit my face. Chicago looked exactly the same. Cars moved. People walked. The city kept going. But my entire life had just cracked apart. I pulled out my phone and called Rebecca. No answer. I called again. Nothing. One more time. Still nothing. I sent a text. "Just got fired. On my way home. We need to talk." A few seconds later, I saw the message had been read. But she didn't reply. Not a single word. The drive home felt endless. Every red light felt longer than normal. Every minute felt heavy. When I finally pulled into our driveway, Rebecca's car was already there. At least she was home. I walked inside. The house was quiet. The kids' shoes were near the front door. A half-finished juice cup sat on the kitchen counter. Everything looked normal. But something felt wrong. Very wrong. Rebecca was sitting at the kitchen table. Her phone was face down. She looked calm. Too calm. Like she had practiced this moment. Like she had been waiting for it. When she looked up at me, I knew. Somehow, before she even spoke, I knew. "Derek," she said softly. "I was going to tell you this weekend." My chest tightened. "Tell me what?" She took a breath. Then she looked directly into my eyes. "I've been seeing Kevin for 8 months. The room went silent. For a second, I couldn't even process the words. Then they hit me. Art. 8 months. My boss. My wife. 8 months. "I'm in love with him," she continued. "I want a divorce." I stared at her. I felt like someone had knocked all the air out of my body. 8 months. February. My brain started connecting things automatically. February. That was when she started going to those wellness retreats. February. That was when Kevin started leaving work early. February. That was when Rebecca suddenly seemed happier. Lighter. I remembered dinner parties. The way she laughed. The way Kevin watched her. All those moments I ignored. All those signs. Now they slammed into me at once. I swallowed hard. The kids. I finally asked. Rebecca didn't hesitate. "I want primary custody." The words felt like another punch. "You'll see them every other weekend and Wednesday evenings." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She had already planned everything. Every detail. Every step. Like she had been preparing for months. "Kevin and I are planning." "Don't." My voice came out sharp. She stopped talking. "Don't say his name." For the first time she looked uncomfortable. But only for a second. Then she continued explaining everything. Custody. Assets. Lawyers. Schedules. Future plans. It sounded like a business meeting. Not a marriage ending. Not a family breaking apart. When she finally finished, I couldn't sit there anymore. I walked upstairs. Into our bedroom. My bedroom. At least it used to be. I sat on the edge of the bed. The same bed where we'd laughed together. Held our babies together. Made plans together. Now it all felt fake. Downstairs, I could hear faint sounds from the kitchen. Cabinets opening. A chair moving. Normal sounds. But nothing was normal anymore. The divorce moved fast. Too fast. Rebecca had lawyers ready. Good lawyers. Expensive lawyers. And behind them stood Kevin Calloway. A wealthy businessman with connections everywhere. I was already struggling. Then Kevin quietly made things worse. Word started spreading through the industry. Apparently, I had been fired because of poor performance. At least that's what people were being told. My phone stopped ringing. Interviews disappeared. Opportunities vanished. Doors closed. One after another. The judge eventually awarded Rebecca primary custody. She kept the house. She got the majority of parenting time. And I got child support payments so high they swallowed most of my future income. In less than 3 months, everything was gone. My job, my marriage, my home, my daily life with my children. Gone. Just gone. My friend Daniel let me sleep on his couch for a few weeks. He never asked too many questions. Never pushed. Never judged. Sometimes that kind of kindness means everything. Eventually I rented a room in Rogers Park. The room was tiny. 4 men shared the house. The bathroom always seemed dirty. The walls were thin. At 41 years old, I felt like my life had gone backward 20 years. Sometimes I would lie awake staring at the ceiling, thinking about Olivia, thinking about Ethan, wondering if they missed me as much as I missed them. Rebecca only texted when necessary. Doctor appointments, schedule changes, school updates, nothing personal, nothing warm. One morning she sent a message. Kevin and I are taking Olivia and Ethan to Florida next month. Just so you know. I stared at the screen. My hands shook, but I didn't answer. Not for 2 days. What was the point? Nothing I said would change anything. Then one night in January, another message arrived. This one came from an unknown number. Only 9 words. You'll die broke and lonely. You deserve this, Kevin. I read it again, and again, and again. I didn't know for sure who sent it, but I had a pretty good idea. At first I felt angry, then hurt, then angry again. But eventually something strange happened. The emotions faded. All of them. The pain, the rage, the sadness. What remained was emptiness. A numb feeling, like I had already lost everything important. And when a person feels like they have nothing left to lose, something changes inside them. I didn't know it yet, but my life was about to change again. In a way I never could have imagined. My Uncle Walter had always been different. He was my father's younger brother, only 8 years older than me. He showed up a few times every year, usually with a tan, interesting stories, and mysterious jobs nobody fully understood. He never married, never had children. He lived all over the country, California, Texas, Nevada, Arizona, Colorado. Every time he visited, he seemed to know something nobody else knew. As a kid, I loved talking to him. He treated me like my thoughts mattered, like my questions mattered, even when I was young. Every birthday a card arrived. Inside was always $50, without fail. Years passed. The cards became phone calls. But Walter never changed. Then he died. A heart attack. Just like that. 55 years old. Gone. At the time, my own life was already falling apart. So when my father mentioned something about a storage unit Walter owned, I barely paid attention. Months later in February, Dad called me. Derek, he said, you remember Walter's storage unit? Sort of. The company says they're going to auction everything if someone doesn't clear it out. I sighed. Dad, I'm barely surviving right now. I know. His voice became softer. Then he said something that made me pause. Walter always had a soft spot for you. I stayed quiet. Out of everyone in the family, he always asked about you. Another pause. I think he'd want you to be the one who goes. A few days later, I drove to Cicero. The storage facility looked exactly like every storage facility in America. Gray metal doors, concrete, fluorescent lights, cold air. I found Unit 114. The lock was old. The code Dad gave me didn't work at first. I tried again. Nothing. Again. Nothing. On the 4th try it clicked. The door rolled upward with a loud metal rattle. I looked inside. Shelves, plastic bins, old tools, camping gear, boxes. Nothing special. Nothing valuable. At least that's what I thought. Then I noticed something sitting on a shelf near the back wall. A black briefcase. My eyes narrowed. There was a piece of paper taped to the top. One word was written on it. My name, Derek. My heart immediately started beating faster. Why would Walter leave a briefcase with my name on it? I slowly walked toward it. The room suddenly felt much quieter. Almost too quiet. I picked up the case. It felt heavy. Very heavy. Then I noticed something else. Combination locks. The same type as the storage unit lock. I stared at them for a moment. Then entered Walter's birthday code backward. Click. The locks opened. I slowly lifted the lid. And the second I looked inside, my entire life changed. Inside the briefcase was money. A lot of money. For a moment, my brain stopped working. Stacks of $100 bills filled one side of the case. Neat stacks. Perfectly organized. I counted 6 bundles. Each one held $10,000. $60,000. My hands started shaking. I looked around the storage unit as if someone might suddenly appear and explain everything. Nobody came. The building stayed silent. The only sound was the buzzing fluorescent lights overhead. Then I noticed a large envelope beside the money. And a folded letter. I picked up the letter first. The handwriting was Walter's. I recognized it instantly. My chest tightened as I began reading. Derek, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I should have explained all of this years ago, but I kept waiting for the right time. Then I ran out of time. The money is for travel and living expenses. Use it. Don't waste energy worrying about that. The real answer is waiting in Scottsdale, Arizona. Inside the envelope is an address. Go there. As for Barbara, she has been expecting you for almost 20 years. She will explain everything. Everything I built was built for a reason. And one day you would need it. You were always the one in the family who saw things differently. You were always going to build something real. Take the trip. Listen carefully. Love. Walter. I read the letter again. Then a third time. Nothing about it made sense. Walter had been dead for over a year. Yet somehow he had prepared all of this. Prepared it for me. I opened the envelope. Inside was an address in Scottsdale, Arizona. And a plane ticket. The flight left in 3 days. I sat on the cold concrete floor staring at everything. The money. The ticket. The letter. My bank account had $72. 72. And now $60,000 sat in front of me. It felt unreal. Like a dream. Or a trap. I thought about leaving everything behind. I thought about walking away. But another thought kept returning. Walter. Out of everyone in my family, Walter had always believed in me. Even when I didn't believe in myself. And right now I had nothing left to lose. So 3 days later, I boarded the flight. The entire trip felt strange. Like I was walking into someone else's life. When I landed in Arizona, warm desert air hit my face. It was completely different from Chicago. Different sky. Different smell. Different world. I rented a car and drove to the address. The neighborhood was beautiful. Large homes. Quiet streets. Perfect landscaping. The kind of place where people clearly had money. Lots of it. The house at the end of the address was enormous. Tall gates protected the entrance. My stomach twisted. I walked to the intercom. A woman's voice answered. Who is it? My name is Derek Briggs. Silence. Then I continued. I'm Walter's nephew. Another pause. Longer this time. Finally she spoke. Come to the front door. The gate slowly opened. I walked through. Every step felt heavier. The woman who greeted me looked to be in her 60s. Her dark hair was streaked with silver. Her eyes were sharp. Intelligent. The kind of eyes that noticed everything. She studied my face. Then nodded slowly. You look like him. I wasn't sure what to say. She led me inside. The house was stunning. Beautiful artwork covered the walls. Everything looked expensive. Not flashy. Just important. Like every object had a story. We sat near a courtyard with a fountain. Sunlight reflected across the water. For a few moments neither of us spoke. Then she looked directly at me. Walter told me this day would come. My heartbeat quickened. What exactly did Walter do? The woman smiled slightly. My name is Barbara. She folded her hands. Then she told me a story that completely changed how I saw my uncle. Walter had not spent his life drifting around the country. He had spent his life building something. Something enormous. Years earlier, Walter and Barbara had started buying land. Not popular land. Not expensive land. Land nobody wanted. Land nobody noticed. Then they waited. Patiently. Year after year. Eventually cities expanded. Roads appeared. Businesses arrived. Property values exploded. Again and again. Walter had predicted it. Again and again. They became incredibly successful. The company they built was called Clearwater Land Partners. Quiet. Private. Unknown to most people. But unbelievably valuable. Then Barbara said something that made my entire body freeze. The company is worth approximately $112 million. I blinked. Surely I had heard wrong. 112 million? That couldn't be right. But Barbara wasn't joking. Her face remained serious. Then she said the words that changed everything. Walter owned 43% of the company. I stared at her. Unable to speak. Unable to think. And then came the final shock. He left his entire share to you. The room disappeared around me. My mind couldn't process it. 43%. Nearly $50 million. To me. A man sleeping in a tiny rented room. A man who had lost everything. A man with $72 in his bank account. I looked at Barbara. Why? She smiled softly. Because Walter believed you would build something with it. I lowered my eyes. She continued. He said everyone else would spend it. But you would build. For the first time since my life collapsed, I felt something new. Hope. Real hope. Not fantasy. Not wishful thinking. Hope. I returned to Chicago a few days later. But I told nobody. Not my parents. Not Rebecca. Not even Daniel. I needed time. Time to think. Because suddenly I had choices. A lot of choices. I could seek revenge. I could destroy Kevin. I could make Rebecca regret everything. The temptation was there. Of course it was. I was human. But every time anger appeared, another image replaced it. Olivia, Ethan, my children. They became my focus. Everything had to be about them. Not revenge. My first phone call was to a new attorney, Jennifer Hartwell, one of Chicago's best family lawyers. She listened carefully as I explained everything. When I finished, she asked one question. Has your financial situation changed significantly since the divorce? Yes. Then we can revisit custody. For the first time in months, I felt powerful. Not because of money, because of possibility. Within 2 months, I bought a house in Evanston. 4 bedrooms. Large backyard. Good schools. Clothes enough that Olivia and Ethan wouldn't have to change their routines. I paid cash. No mortgage. No loans. When my friend Daniel saw the house, he nearly fainted. Walter left you what? I laughed. It was the first genuine laugh I'd had in a very long time. The custody battle wasn't easy. Rebecca fought hard. She claimed I was trying to buy my way into the children's lives. But Jennifer was brilliant. She showed the court everything. Every visit I attended. Every school event. Every doctor appointment. Every effort I made when I had almost nothing. The truth became impossible to ignore. I wasn't trying to replace Rebecca. I wasn't trying to take the children away. I simply wanted equal time with them. The evaluator agreed. The judge agreed. Shared custody. Alternating weeks. The day Olivia and Ethan first walked into my new house felt like a dream. Olivia looked around carefully. Then she asked the most important question possible. Does it have a backyard? I smiled. Yes. Her eyes lit up immediately. She raced toward the back door. Ethan chased after her. Their laughter filled the house. For months I had felt broken. Now that laughter filled every empty space, I stood in the hallway and cried. Not from sadness. From relief. Pure relief. The children had a home with me again. A real home. The next few years changed everything. I officially became owner of Walter's share of Clearwater. Barbara stayed beside me as an advisor. She taught me everything Walter knew. Every lesson. Every strategy. Every mistake. Instead of wasting the money I built, exactly as Walter hoped, I started Briggs Capital Ventures, a company focused on long-term development projects. The same approach Walter used. Patient. Careful. Smart. Within 18 months we owned major properties across Arizona, Texas, and Illinois. One project meant especially much to me. A neglected neighborhood near Rogers Park. The same area where I rented that tiny room after losing everything. We transformed abandoned buildings, created jobs, opened businesses, brought life back to the community. Every success felt like honoring Walter. Word eventually spread through Chicago's business world. People learned what had happened. People learned who I had become. And eventually those stories reached Kevin Calloway. I never attacked him. Never publicly embarrassed him. Never sought revenge. I simply focused on building. But life has a funny way of balancing things. Over time, Kevin's company began losing clients. Then more clients. Then even more. Eventually, Calloway Capital was sold. The business he once controlled disappeared. Meanwhile, my company kept growing. Rebecca and I learned how to co-parent. We were never friends again. Probably never would be. But we learned to work together. Because Olivia and Ethan mattered more than our history. Years passed. The pain slowly faded. One spring afternoon, Olivia turned 7. We held her birthday party in my backyard. Children ran through sprinklers. Laughter echoed everywhere. Colorful decorations hung from the trees. The smell of cake filled the air. It was perfect. I stood near the edge of the yard watching everything. Daniel stood beside me. For a while we simply watched. Then he spoke quietly. Walter knew, didn't he? I looked toward Olivia. She was laughing with her friends. Completely happy. Completely free. I thought about Walter. The birthday cards. The mysterious stories. The briefcase. The storage unit. The plane ticket. The faith he had placed in me. And I smiled. Yeah. I nodded slowly. He knew. A few moments later, Olivia ran toward me holding a piece of birthday cake. The frosting was sliding dangerously toward one side. Daddy? I laughed. What? You have to eat some before it's gone. I picked her up, carefully protecting the cake. How much is left? She thought for a second, then gave the most honest answer a 7-year-old could give. Some. I laughed again, then took a bite. The briefcase still sits in my office today. The letter is still inside, along with the old code written on a small note. Sometimes I look at it and think about how quickly life can change. One day you believe everything is secure. The next day it all disappears. But sometimes losing everything reveals something important. Sometimes destruction clears the way for a better future. Walter understood that. He spent years building something quietly, patiently, piece by piece. Not for himself, for me. He saw something I couldn't see. And when my world finally collapsed, he made sure there was something underneath to catch me. Not comfort, not luxury, opportunity, a second chance. And because of him, I got one. I lost my job. I lost my marriage. I lost my home. But I found my children again. I found my future. And I found the truth about who I was meant to become. In the end, that was worth more than all the money Walter left behind.